Welcome to Taking Action. I'm Chris Colombo. We're going into week 7 of the NFL. I'm very excited. We're going to go over week 6, the teasers. I have an interesting story about my brother Vinny that you show next week. Don't forget to hit subscribe, and we will be back with you shortly. Thank you. Welcome back to Taking Action. I'm Chris Colombo. This is week 6 in the NFL and our number 10th show, Hot 10. With me is Anthony Conover. I'd like to start out with, what do you think last week?
It was a very interesting week. Obviously, some unexpected things happened. Jets beating the Eagles, 49ers losing. The two big teams obviously went down. Bills struggled against the Giants, which was a huge spread as well. So a lot of close games this week in the NFL. I think 4 out of the 5 or 4 out of the 6 of the 1 o'clock games ended in a 1-possession game. So there were a lot of close games this week. So it was an interesting week, fun week.
It's fun when you make money. Listen, but very brilliant analysis. Did you enjoy it?
Hey.
I said 4 or 5 times throughout the show and earlier in the other segment of the show, it was a teaser week. A teaser week is when you throw the lines out the window. And I think basically, I don't think many teams fell close to their lines.
No, I mean, it was all over the place.
It was all over the place. Interesting enough that out of my 9 picks, the majority on a 2-team getting 6 points either way stood up. Is that correct?
Yeah, we would have had a good amount with the 6 points, and then with the 10.
On the 9 teams, 8 of the 9 teams that I picked stood up on the teaser.
Yeah. It was definitely one of those weeks.
Yes. Why it was one of those weeks is I evaluate their line, I evaluate my line, I watch the difference, and I try to give you the best edge I can. It's a science that's over time works, but you do have your weeks. I think my worst week, they told me I was 3-3. I was 4 of 6.
This week?
Last week. This week wasn't really picks with for teasers.
Yeah, I mean, listen, if we were 100%, we'd be betting everything. So
when I take my time, but it's not every week we can be. I think on my main picks, leave out the teaser week, I'm doing pretty good, right?
Yeah, we're not doing too bad. No, it's we're doing pretty well.
Okay, I'd like to evaluate this week's teams. I explained what a teaser is. There are going to be weeks that I give you parlays, not them 20 team parlays. Something's getting 2,800. A 2-team parlay, and that's when we're going to go into money lines. Okay, a money line taking money in a parlay makes it pay exponentially. So if you could hit 2 teams taking money, you will 9 times your money.
Yeah, you can,
or more depending on the money door.
I mean, yeah, if you pick the money line right on especially underdog
we're
teams,
work
obviously.
towards that. You got to remember this. I don't mean to interrupt you. You got to remember this is your first season with me. You're getting to know me, and hopefully, I get to help you. This week is another particular week. I said we're going to start totals, but there has been a lot of injuries defensively.
Yeah, I mean, there's injuries all over, obviously.
And there's been a lot of injuries offensively. So usually if you got the injuries just defensively,
Yeah, I mean, there's quarterbacks hurt running. I mean, we'll get into it with the 49ers with McCaffrey, Jaguars with Trevor Lawrence, Eagles missing some corners. I mean, injuries change everything.
Injuries and momentum change everything, but the better teams will overcome the momentum. And bad officiating.
I mean, there have been some calls this season
that are more than questionable on replays with some of the pass interferences. I don't see them. And a personal fouls, I haven't seen them.
I have a question for you there, because
Yes.
a couple years ago they made pass interference a reviewable call,
Right.
and then they took it away again because I think one pass interference got overturned. You think they should bring it back?
Yeah, absolutely, because that one could decide the future of a team and a team going to the playoffs or the Super Bowl, which I saw a questionable couple in last year's Super Bowl.
Do you remember the Saints versus the Saints? I can't remember the team they were playing with the pass interference late in the game. The Saints didn't get it.
I saw one of those this week too.
It's
Glad you brought it up. I mean, if the camera don't see it, I don't see it. How did the ref see it?
And honestly, this is the first year that, obviously they have the rules analysis, Sterator and everybody that come on. Even they're disagreeing with the refs. Usually they try to, it's the brotherhood. They try to protect
I
the
love
other
when
refs.
they put the probability up, because what probability could accurately depict a wrong call?
Yeah. I mean,
not every spot is 100% accurate, but at least you get a measure. The chain doesn't change. So they should pick a set of rules and stick with it. And games are decided, careers are decided, and people's futures are decided on the referee's calls. And I think that reviewing them is the greatest thing, because at least you got it right. And it takes out the human element. It will also take out, with legalized gambling, any corrupt element.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, bookmaking and taking bets and making bets is the American way. Fixing a game, now that's un-American.
How could you do it? How could you do it?
Can't be done.
Unbelievable.
It's up there, but you got to always be respectful of women, children, elderly, handicapped, the challenge, and a fair football game.
Hey, it's America's sport now.
Yes, it is.
Super Bowl gets 120 million viewers. It's unbelievable.
I used to say baseball, apple pie, Chevrolet, and a good parlay, because money dogs are prevalent in baseball, and they're easy to pick. But I'm going to have to say baseball, hot dogs, apple pie, Chevrolet, and fair officiating.
We would love to see it.
It has not happened to date, and there's always a clause in the rule. I think everything should be reviewable.
Yeah, that's why I've always said that too. I don't get why some things are, some things aren't. Wouldn't you want, at the end of the day, isn't being correct on a decision like that the most important thing? Like,
most of what I've said in life is finding the truth. And isn't the closer your perspective to the truth, the more successful you should be, or the more healthy, or more happier, or whatever? I've seen many calls, and last week I saw calls that just blew my mind.
And some of the worst too are the roughing the passers. I mean, I'm all for protecting the quarterback, because
there was a few of them too.
No, but I'm saying exactly, like, we'll all be honest. The quarterback is what everybody, is wanting to see. Backup quarterbacks just aren't the same. But I mean, you breathe on him now. It's a 15-yard penalty. That changes
How about
the whole
horse
game.
collar tackle? It wasn't a horse collar tackle. The hands to the helmet was a shoulder to shoulder. I didn't. Yeah. All right. I don't want to belabor that too much. The point of the matter is, do you have the technology? Why not take advantage of it? Why could you say this is reviewable, but this isn't?
One day,
that coach threw his flag. So it doesn't matter then it comes down to which ones he was right or wrong on. He threw his flag. He gave up his timeout. It should be his choice.
Absolutely. All right, well, let's get into it then.
Okay, here we go.
Week 7 of the NFL kicks off Thursday night. The Jaguars at the Saints. It started off as a pick'em, and the Saints are now 3-point favorites.
The Saints are 3-point favorite because that the quarterback for the Jaguars,
Trevor Lawrence is up in the
Trevor
air right
Lawrence
now.
Is up in the air. We wait a little while to broadcast to you. Trevor Lawrence says, because it's Tuesday at 3:30, he had a
He had a press conference with the media.
Thank you very much.
Oh, of course.
I wouldn't have got that one. But keep up. Trevor Lawrence had a press conference. He says he's optimistic, but they said they were working and the schematic for the thing. The way my picks go and what I do is the quarterback is important on both sides. Even if the starting quarterback for the team we're betting against is out, it changes me mathematically. And it also changes the thing because we've already witnessed that.
Anthony Richardson got hurt. Gardner Minshew came in.
I would have rather started quarterback in because it changed the game plan, the films they watch, what they do. They went into a offense that defense has never seen because nobody goes and practices for the starting quarterback to come out and what that game plan is.
Exactly.
So if a quarterback is not starting after I do this podcast, you should not bet that game if you're relying on information from me. So moving forward, we have this on our Thursday night games, and I think we're pretty much we've lost one Thursday night game since we're here.
Yeah, it was the actually I think it was week 2. It was the Eagles and the Vikings, that backdoor cover right at the end.
Right at the end.
So
you got it. Give me a
yeah, look at that.
Okay. So I've done this both ways. If Minshew, he's on my mind. That game really stuck with me. Sorry, guys. If the Jaguars quarterback plays, I'm leaning towards the Jaguars. If he doesn't, and I don't know if the line's going to stay the same if he does play.
I mean, it started off pick'em. It's 3 now. I would imagine if it's confirmed he's playing, it would change, momentum back towards the Jags. But
so it might not be a bad idea to take the 3, and if it goes back the other way, hope to catch a middle.
Yeah,
I mean that does happen. That's one of the things that happened because it started out pick'em when they think he wasn't playing, going to 3, take the 3, it goes back to pick'em, later pick'em. Comes by 1 or 2, you could win both sides.
Yeah,
but if the Jaguar quarterback plays with 3 points, I lean towards the Jaguars. But if he does play, that line will change.
Yeah, I would imagine if Lawrence doesn't play, the Saints will be a bigger favorite in that one.
Yes.
We go to Sunday.
Yes.
The Falcons at the Buccaneers. The Buccaneers started off as a 1.5 point favorite. They are now a 2.5 point favorite.
Buccaneers is one of the teams that I had liked against the spread. It was the Cardinals, was the Raiders, was the Browns in the beginning of the year. The calculations I do, there was one other.
Titans, yeah.
And Jets. Those are the 5 teams. Not every week, but I look at when they're significant underdogs. That particular game, I think the Falcons are starting to get in their rhythm. And mathematically, the line went from 1.5 to 2.5. It's under 3. I lean towards the Buccaneers, but I think it's going to be a tight game, and I think it's an accurate spread.
Yeah, Buccaneers defense always plays good. Falcons on the road, absolutely.
Buccaneers, but I think it's going to be a good game too.
Yeah. Raiders at the Bears. The Raiders started off as a 1 point favorite. They're now 3 point favorites. This is even with Jimmy Garoppolo not going to play in this game, I would imagine. He left the Patriot game with a back injury. Brian Hoyer, 15 years as a backup quarterback, under Brady, everything. He should probably be the starter in this one. So, obviously an injury to watch there without Jimmy.
I don't know if I'll watch that game, and I don't know if I would bet it. I'd love to be.
I think the people watching that game are fans of both teams. I don't think that's a big watch party game.
Yes.
The Browns at the Colts. The Browns started off as a 2.5 point favorite. They're now 2 point favorites.
I like the Browns as underdogs. They proved themselves as underdogs. They're one of the teams that I told you beyond this, in the beginning of this, before the beginning of the season. I like Browns against the spread on certain games. I think it's going to be a good game to watch.
Yeah. Browns defense played unbelievable against that 49er team, so should be a good one there. The Lions at the Ravens. Ravens started off as 2.5-point favorites. They're now a 3-point favorite.
Lions did very, very well. This is just my verbiage and rhetoric now. The Lions did very, very well against the 49ers, right?
They haven't played.
Who'd they play this week?
Last week they played, actually, that's why we got the
49ers
handy,
played the Jets.
That's why we got the handy sheet right here. The Lions played the Buccaneers.
The Buccaneers, that's what I meant. Well, I compare the Jets and the Buccaneers defense to each
Yeah,
other.
you do.
Statistically, they're pretty close.
Yeah, they're both very good. The Lions won 20-6 against the Bucs.
It's the Bucs. 20 points is a lot against the Buccaneer defense, in my opinion. Statistically, I like the Lions.
And the Ravens coming back from London, so maybe the time change will mess with them again. That's definitely possible.
I put that in one of my factors. That was never a factor because they only started that about 7 years ago.
Yeah, it hasn't. I don't think it's been around too long,
I
but
think it's 7 to 10 years.
I think this is the 5th game they played in London this year now. And
how's the injuries with the Detroit Lions?
They're in pretty good shape besides the running back position. David Montgomery went out with his ribs. Jahmyr Gibbs, who's their backup running back, I believe is out. I can't exactly remember what the injury is, but he'll be out. So they're down to about a third string. But you have Amon-Ra St. Brown, I think one of the top 10 receivers in football.
Statistically, it's proven.
Sam Laporta.
And he catches the ones he has to.
Oh, absolutely. Sam Laporta is a rookie tight end for them. He has the most receiving yards for a tight end, I believe, right now. Their defense hasn't let up a 100-yard rusher yet, which the Ravens obviously like to do. So Lions are 5-1 this year. I mean, it's weird to think about because everybody's kind of used to the Lions
being bad. Every week is
bad.
a different week, though.
People are used to the Lions being bad, but they
want to be on the 5, not the 1.
Exactly. All right, moving on. The Bills at the Patriots. The Bills are 8.5-point favorites. It's been.
I don't like to give up big points. Anything can happen. Give me up touchdowns that come, but that's a conference game. That's a lot of points. But the Patriots,
awful
across the board, are right up there with some of the worst teams statistically I've seen on special teams, offense, defense. I don't like to knock Bill Parcells. I had thought maybe he could pull something, a rabbit out of the hat. He doesn't seem to be able to. I really don't believe it's the horses on that team. I just don't think they played well together as a unit.
I think their kickers tied for the most misses for field goals.
Yes.
I
told you, offense, defense, special teams.
Mac Jones throws interceptions once a week. So
I think they've had the worst 3 combinations I've ever seen.
As a Patriot fan, I agree. All right. The Commanders and the Giants. The Giants are the home team in this one. Commanders started off as a 1-point favorite. They're now 2-point favorites.
I never like to go against home team underdogs. They've been a bit of a rivalry since the beginning of time. The Giants played them hard. Commanders
have been good to us this year.
What is it? Commanders
-2.
-2.
So
I want to make sure we say it for the people out there.
And obviously, like we said before, we're coming on a Tuesday, so these lines change over time, but that's what we have right now. Cardinals at the Seahawks. Seahawks started off as a 7-point favorite. They are now 8-point favorites.
Cardinals is one of the teams that I bet liked against the spread. Not every game. 8 points is a lot of points.
Divisional game.
Cardinals want to win. Seahawks, both teams want to win.
Oh, of course.
But I believe the Cardinals are giving the extra effort. I think they have the extra motivation. I lean towards the Cardinals plus the 8. I think if you wait a little later in the week to bet it, that line could go up. So I don't want to tout it too much. But I would sit and wait if you are and want to bet the Cardinals. Wait to see how the line goes.
The Steelers at the Rams started off, and it is still at -3 for the Rams.
That means it's pick 'em because the way the NFL does their line, like I said, and I will get into it one time, there's 17 variables. You give up 3 points for being home team. It's how they figure it. So they're saying that it's a pick 'em game. I don't see it that way. Do you?
Not even a little bit.
Uh, Common sense wise, and I, as a kid, was a diehard Steeler fan. Uh, Rams.
That's what I would say as well.
Then I'm screwed.
All right, the Chargers at the Chiefs. This should be a fun game. Chiefs started off as a 6-point favorite. They're now 5.5. That dreaded line.
Chiefs have not been covering well. There's been circumstances where they just want to lay down on the field.
You won't get over that one for this year.
No, one team kicks a field goal they don't need, 1 second left, saying that the points count for divisional games. Another team, the other guys lay down and take a suntan. You can get in that end zone, you get in the end zone. My opinion, call me strange, call me peculiar. I've said, and I still maintain that legalized gambling will affect handicapping and football because there is a lot of players, and football players are usually very ethical people. They were brought up with determination, effort, country, all the good things that should go into it. They're emotional. That's why the emotional element is important. Like when Dick Buckus died, I don't think that team could have lost to any team that was ever put together. And football players believe in being the best athlete, the best American that you can be. They back their armed forces. They do a lot of good for everybody. I do not think that legalized gambling has not affected the game. Because now the players, in order to maintain fans, not only have to win, they have to win by the point spread. And if they lose, they don't lose by as much. And it's very, very important to have the support of your fans.
That and fantasy football.
Yes.
I mean, you go on social media now, somebody gets hurt. It should be, I hope you get better, blah, blah, blah. Now it's like, oh, well, you screwed over my fantasy team.
Well, fans can be a little harsh. I don't think all do. But remember, a betting fan is still a fan, but a guy that wants to bet to win, he's there for the monetary purposes. And the fantasy football people are competitive the same way the football players are competitive. But I think they should be a little more empathetic.
I'm 3-3 right now on the year, fantasy football.
Doing better than here. Go ahead.
Packers at the Broncos. Packers are a 1-point favorite.
I like Russell Wilson. I like the Packers historically. There may be no winner in that game.
I mean, I know the fans watching won't be a winner because that does not seem like a fun one to watch.
No. But let me tell you, sometimes the Packers pull it out and Russell Wilson pulls out. And the rest of you remember, it's pro football. Just when they wake up,
It's always the games that you don't think are going to be fun that end up being fun. Maybe this will be a good one.
You have to remember, that's why it's difficult to pick in the preseason. It's starting to come together and mold, and the picks are going to be, my main pick is going to be easier to do as time goes on. That, when you have a head coach, he has new assistants, he has new head coaches, you have new assistants, and they all integrate the same with new players come on. And, I look for that very, very carefully, and I just don't believe that those two teams are working in synchronization because there really are no really bad players in professional football.
Yeah.
Maybe just not playing to their potential, or they would not have been drafted. They would not get the contracts. So there's always a reason why, and that's why you'll see a team wake up and beat a very good team because they didn't see them coming.
Sunday night football. The Dolphins at the Eagles. Eagles were 2.5-point favorites. They're down to 1.5.
How'd the Dolphins do last week?
They destroyed the Panthers.
How'd the Eagles do last week?
They lost to the Jets, and I believe it was actually I got it right here.
And that's kind of a rivalry a little bit too, right?
The Jets had Jets had been 0-12 against the Eagles all time in their franchise's history. They finally got the one.
Yeah, that was the thing you talked me off Jets with off camera.
Hey, I was just giving
And
information.
what was one of the teams I said against big teams against the spread?
Yeah, it was the Jets. 20-14 they won against the Eagles.
You told me the Jets were banged up defensively.
Both of their starting corners out. Another lineman was out.
I shouldn't have listened. But my fault, not yours. How do you view this one?
Dolphins, the best offense in the league. Eagles reeling a little bit. The Eagles might be missing some people on defense too. It's hard. This is a tough game.
I saw their offensive linemen get hurt, but we went over injuries.
Lane Johnson, their right tackle, has a high ankle sprain. I think it's still up in the air if he's going to play. Yeah, I think he's questionable. Their number one corner, Darius Slay, didn't play against the Jets.
Let me tell you something. Whoever came in for the right tackle did a very good job.
Hurts was under some pressure against the Jets.
You're always going to be under pressure against the Jets, but it's the number one offensive line in NFL football.
Oh yeah, I mean, they got Hall of Famers all over the place on that.
All over the place.
So this is a tough game. This is the favorite game that I'm going to watch all week. I think this is going to be an unbelievable game to watch. But
I like the Eagles.
All right.
I know you like Miami.
I'm super split on it.
You like Miami, I can tell.
I'm very split. Monday night, we ended there. 49ers at the Vikings. 49ers are 7-point favorites. Obviously, the big one in this, Christian McCaffrey hurt his oblique.
Is he questionable or is he out?
They're kind of in the air. It's between he could play to he could be out multiple weeks. It's one of those things. Debo Samuel hurt his shoulder.
This is one of the problems I'm having this year with the injury reports. They're not giving you proper timelines. Everybody that's been injured, except I hope he gets better, Aaron Rodgers, could play. I mean, it's like they're dangling your anticipation.
They always say it's a competitive advantage they're trying to give.
Is that what you think it is? You got to remember the line is based on players playing or not playing. So I'm seeing manipulations of the line cause of that. And it's giving me a headache. But and I have to do multiple calculations. 7 points is a lot of points in that game. Vikings are a solid team defensively and offensively.
Vikings obviously still without their number one wide receiver and Justin Jefferson.
Yes, Justin Jefferson.
So,
but they're putting up points.
They beat the Bears last week in a nice little divisional rivalry game there. So
who do you like?
I know it's 7, but I would still go with the 49ers. I think they bounce back in a big way.
Too.
Well, all right. That's week 7 for you.
All right, week 7. Anthony Conover, Chris Colombo. Don't forget to hit subscribe, like, give me your comments. I would appreciate them. I do answer them. I think I answered the teaser one. I hope to your satisfaction. I don't have a main pick this week that I would bet the ranch on, but I gave you my opinions of who I like. It's not going to come every week. How am I doing with my main picks? I don't keep track.
We lost with the Saints last week. We won with the Saints the previous week.
And I think that's the only main pick I lost.
So on main picks, I would have to go back and look, but I think we're doing all right on the main ones.
Yeah, it's only in 10 weeks. I think it's 1.
So, yeah.
This week, there is no main pick. I told you who I liked. Anthony is giving you the statistics. I think he's the best one that does that. Comes off the top of his head. He watches, he studies. Later on in the program, I'll explain my variables, what we do before camera, what I do. I'll give you the 17 variables the NFL uses. I'll give you the variables I use. They're not always applicable depending on the week and what's going on. Injuries has been a factor. I have to tell you, officiating has been a factor.
It's the worst I've ever seen it.
I'm 61. I have to agree. Even before there was instant replay, this is the worst I've ever seen. I don't know how you can make so many bad calls on when you have a camera there. And, in the old days, you could because the angle the ref was standing on, the other ref, the line judge, it could happen. With the camera, it's not supposed to happen.
You think one thing real quick? Do you think that I think could fix it? Players get fined for penalties and things like that. If a ref makes a bad call, shouldn't he be fined?
No.
Got to take responsibility somehow. You're
No.
messing up games.
He's the respect on the field. He's the sheriff. He's the warden. You can't, I don't see that happening.
I don't
Anytime
think
in the
it'll
near
happen,
future.
but I'd like to see it.
What I'd like to see is all areas of football under review, a solid set of rules that doesn't change for those reviews, that make sense and move forward. So you know where you stand from year to year, week to week. I mean, to change the rules that govern what is and what isn't. Touchdowns. Then it went to completed passes. And
Roughing the passer, you can't land with your body weight on them. What am I supposed to do? Float?
it'd be nice if you could. Not the point. And I think this is done by committees, if I'm correct.
Yeah, I believe the owners, and they have to approve everything, but I mean,
I think it almost becomes like the Senate. It's a give and take just to satisfy people. But I think we need a common sense approach. I'm all for protecting the players,
of course.
but I've seen some less of the passer calls, some helpless receiver calls that are just ridiculous.
I would agree.
One of the games that we did lose was a voracious defensive player hit with no doubt a helpless receiver. It was wrong, and that defense backed off the rest of the game. And you could see that they did. No team wants to hurt another player. And if you do, I mean, there's something wrong. It's not what football's about. In the 70s and the 80s and part of the 90s,
Those highlight reels were something to watch.
yes, they went out to put you out of the game. Gino Marchetti, one of my favorite defensive linemen, has taken out more quarterbacks and injuries than anybody in football, Hall of Famer. Running backs, the same. I think the game has evolved. I think it's a better game, but I think with instant replay, it should be watched. It affects everybody and everything. There's no way that I could calculate in my lines for bad calls. I just can't do it. And actually, it improved that I didn't have to worry about that. Like a team that doesn't hold and stuff like that. You follow me? But or a team that doesn't have that many personal fouls in the quarterback. And most of the ones I see that are wrong against guys that really don't make that mistake. Would you agree on that?
Yeah. I mean, you go back to the ending of the Jets-Chiefs game with the pass interference that took away an interception. There was a questionable interception call, or the questionable pass interference call in the 49er Brown game this week. A questionable roughing the passer call in the Bills Giants game. I mean, they're all
we talked about it.
Yeah, so it's intriguing.
I don't say it's intriguing. I think it's frustrating. But here we are, Anthony Conover. I'm Chris Colombo. Please don't hit subscribe. Give us a like. Make sure you give us comments. I do answer the comments. One guy called me a wannabe. What do you call it? The old handicap is a 50 to 53% or something like that. Everybody's entitled to their opinion. But I think I'm a little better than 50%, right?
We should be, yeah.
Yeah. A little better than 60, right? I was dead and spot on accurate last week.
Teaser week.
I said it. The majority of 6-point teasers land, but you should really have done 3 points on a 10 points, 3-team teaser. 9 out of my 10 picks stood up on a 10-point teaser. The majority stood up on a 6-point teaser. This week is going to be an interesting week. I never like to lay the points. I like to take it. Let's see how it goes. Thank you. Don't forget to hit subscribe. It's free. Give us your comments. And looking forward to week 7, week 8, and episode 11. Thank you. All be safe. What a teaser is minimum of 2 teams, multiple teams, but usually it's 2 teams or 3 teams. And what you do is, let's say you're laying $60 to win $50. It's 6-5. Both those teams have to win. And what you get if you pick 2 teams is you get 6 points. So let's say the Jets are playing the Giants. For example, I'm using that because I'm in New York. So the Jets are playing the Giants. The Jets, let's say, are 3. So in a teaser, you would pick, let's say you like the Jets. You would add 6 points to that. So now it would be Jets plus 3. And then it still has to come out by the line that's set with that particular betting bookmaking operation. Okay. Now, if you took the Giants are plus 3 because the Jets were minus 3. You add 6 to that, and then it would be plus 9. You can take the same 2 teams and hope to hit a spread. I usually don't advise it unless the game is a really large line. So if you laid 3 with the Jets and you put them in a teaser, you would now be minus 3 now goes to plus 3. The Giants would go from plus 3 to plus 9. So if they were playing each other and you chose to take it, you could take the Giants plus 9 and the Jets plus 6. The plus 3, rather, plus 3. Okay. Now, a 3-point teaser gets 10 points. Let's go back to the 2-point teaser. And it is the same rule for both teasers and multiple more teams. There are other variations, but I don't suggest that you play with them. The Jets now are plus 3 rather than minus 3. If the game falls on a push, some betting books make you lose it. Some of them push it. If it pushes, it's a no bet on a push, so you don't lose your money. Okay. Now let's go to the 10-point teaser. 10-point teaser is the same way, only it's 10 points, but you have to pick 3 teams, and you still lay 6-5. So you lay 60 to win 50, you lay 120 to win 100, you lay 600 to win 500, 1,200 to win 1,000. And out of the 9 teams I picked on a 3-team teaser, all but one stood up. So I was 8 for 9, and the majority was right. And I said it multiple times, this is a teaser week. Not every week is going to be that week. That week was. It was a weird week with lines because I felt their line was wrong, and the way I calibrated, I don't think my line was that accurate. So that's why you had the amazing things that did happen, but almost every game in the NFL fell in that 10-point teaser parameter. So I said it was a teaser week, and it was a teaser week, and believe me, I know. Okay. You met my brother Vinny last week. That when I did the Francesi interview, he said I was the only surviving brother, and we got a lot of comments. Some people were calling and say, "I didn't know your brother Vinny passed." You see, he's alive and well, and it reminded me of a funny story of my brother Vinny. He's 11 years older than me. I'm going to be 62 next week. He was just 73 last week on the 16th, the other day, not even last week. This is Tuesday that we set the show for you for. When we first started coming up here, a very popular place to go was the Maybrook Drive-In. A lot of people like to go with their girls. So my cousin Maria used to stay up with us with a cousin, may she rest in peace. And we were born 3 weeks apart, grew up in the same playpen. Magnificent human being. I miss her dearly. So whenever Vinny and his wife would say, and at the time it was his girlfriend, later on became his fiance, his wife, mother of his children, grandmother, grandfather to multiple children. A lot. I think he's got 2 sets of twins. So as grandchildren. I believe he has 9. So whenever you say, "Mom, I'm taking Maria and Chris to the drive-in," we would hold the chairs in the kitchen. You'd have to practically pry us. So Vinny liked to drive very fast. The back roads were very snaky, and they were like a track. And there's no lights up here like the streets lights in the urban area. It's very dark. And when it's foggy, and it did get foggy up here in the summer, it was very hard to see. So usually when he picked up his girlfriend, they were getting along very well. We would drive to the drive-in. We would get in the front seat. They would sit in the back seat and smooch. He always parked in the drive-in very close to the refreshment stand. So I would go and get stuff. And there was one particular time they're in the back seat, I guess, smooching or whatever they're doing. And I had the window open and I kept throwing popcorn out. And this beautiful, big black and white cat, I couldn't believe the size of this thing. And I'm feeding the popcorn. Then he says, "What are you doing?" So I asked to get him more popcorn because I kept feeding it to the cat. He said, "I'm feeding this cat." I had just a couple left and I really wanted to eat the popcorn. It was really good. So popcorn and yoo-hoos. So he looks out the window and it's about a 50-pound skunk. With that, he lets out a roar. His girlfriend lets out a scream, and the skunk let out whatever it is a skunk lets out. I don't know, but got us all. That was possibly one of the worst nights in the movies in my life. And why I brought it up, the commercial for you, who was Yogi Berra, one of the most beloved baseball players of all times. So I thought it was interesting. I thought it was funny. I thought maybe you'd enjoy that. Well, we had the soaking tomato juice, which is a fallacy. Trust me, it doesn't work. We stunk the house out. His car reeked forever. He got in a terrible fight with his girlfriend, which was going to happen anyway, because on the way home, they get into a fight after smooching or whatever, make it out back there. They drive 100 miles an hour home arguing. We'd be holding the seats like this. So anytime my brother and his girlfriend wanted to take me and my cousin at the time was 12 to the drive-in, we used to get anxiety.